Millennial menopause, preparing for perimenopause, menopause, and life's next period is a guide to this phase of life from a millennial for millennials, because no one had told us anything about this tremendously important phase. And in it, I talk like your best friend, who is also an expert in women's reproductive mental health.
Menopause has long been shrouded in secrecy, leaving many clueless, ashamed, and embarrassed to seek and extend support for one of the most natural transitions and rite of passage. Well, the spirit and mood have changed. People are surrendering to curiosity, knowledge, and empowerment. In this podcast, I'll share my own experiences and point of view, peek into the lifestyle and self-care practices of people experiencing menopause, and tap experts for their take on the pausal phase. This is for you if you are one of the millions of people in the menopausal phase or want to support them. I'm Dixie Lincoln Nichols, health and well-being educator and wellness founder. This is the Pause Pod.
Welcome, my sweet peas. Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Pause Pod. Today's guest is Lauren A. Tetenbaum, aka The Counselor. She's a perinatal and perimenopause certified therapist, former big law attorney, and proud first-gen Cuban American who now champions millennial mental health and life transitions. Before grad school, Lauren spent a decade in big law representing immigrants and survivors of abuse, experience that now fuels her justice first lens on workplace wellness and gender equity. Off the clock, she volunteers on the Postpartum Support International Helpline, chairs community service committees at her kids' schools, and serves on her town's League of Women Voters Board. Her debut book, Millennial Menopause, drops today. Take a grounding breath and settle in for this conversation. Lauren, thank you so much for coming on to the Pause Pod to chat with me. I'm super excited to have this conversation with you today.
Thank you for having me. Likewise.
Absolutely. And today is a super special day for you. We're going to talk about why that is in a bit. So tell us a little bit about yourself. We're diving right into it, your background, your journey, and what led you to this point today and where you are on your journey.
Sure. Yes. Let's dive right in. I am Lauren Tetenbaum. I am a mom. I live in New York and I work as a licensed clinical social worker. I love helping women, supporting them, empowering them, and I focus particularly on life transitions. So far, my work has primarily been focused on the perinatal period and emerging adulthood. And as I approached 40, I realized I knew nothing about menopause. So I spent a year learning, researching, talking, and writing it down. And that led to my book, which is released today.
First of all, congratulations on that enormous feat, a book today. Look at you, how calm you are.
Well, it's nice to have the support of like-minded advocates and friends like you. I do feel calm and very well supported. So
Tell us about the book. What's the name of the book?
Millennial Menopause, preparing for perimenopause, menopause, and life's next period is a guide to this phase of life from a millennial for millennials, because no one had told us anything about this tremendously important phase. And in it, I talk like your best friend, who is also an expert in women's reproductive mental health. I researched so much. I had the pleasure of interviewing 4 women's health experts, and I cover everything from hormone therapy to media representation to workplace policies, and of course, the mental health impact and what we can do about it.
Wow. Now let's rewind a little bit. You are both a lawyer and a therapist. And
Former lawyer, yes.
former lawyer, but I think
No
like
longer.
once a lawyer, always a lawyer. And both of these roles are steeped in advocacy.
Yes.
What made you decide to merge both of them? And how do they both play a role in helping to support the community that you now support, especially as it pertains to women's health, advocacy, and of course, menopause?
Yes, thank you for this question because it may not be obvious to the layperson, but my background, education, passions have been lifelong. And I do feel like menopause represents a topic that continues my commitment to helping women advocate for agency and access to healthcare. And I actually went to law school because of a reproductive rights class that I took in college. And I thought, I really want to help women have agency over their bodies. And I think I can do that as a lawyer. I didn't love law school, even though I stuck with it and I worked as a lawyer for 10 years and I did help a lot of women in various ways. But while I was in law school, I also pursued my master's in social work because I really appreciated the mental health piece and the compassion involved in the direct services. And after a few twists and turns, like we all have one way or another, I went into private practice as a therapist, focusing on women's mental health that way. And menopause is next for me, for my clients, for my friends. And so it's really cool to be able to contribute in this field now.
Right. So basically, it was alignment as you move into that phase of life and having had the background with women's health, it made sense.
Absolutely. From high school, I was interning at Planned Parenthood. I have always been in this space one way or another. And again, it's really women's health and women's autonomy.
Right. What about your menopause story? Where are you on the spectrum?
So I am 40 years old and I have been diagnosed with perimenopause, but it's still TBD because I went back on the birth control pill because it made me feel better. So it's a little hard to tell. I am very open about answering these questions, but I think that sometimes we get caught up in diagnoses. And I prefer to talk about the symptoms and then the treatment options for those symptoms. So, yes, perhaps I'm carrying the diagnosis.
Mhm.
But regardless, I knew that my body was different, my mood was different, and I spoke to a menopause specialist, chose to go back on the pill. I'm feeling better, and that's where I'm at.
Right. So, were you symptomatic at the time when you chose to speak to a menopause specialist?
Yes. It was funny because I was writing the book and
Mhm.
listing all the symptoms and
Mm.
thinking, huh,
Hmm.
these are quite familiar. And I am very in tune with my body and my mental health. And I noticed that my mood swings were not my sort of typical stress or anxiety talking. It was something a little bit different. The night sweats, those were plaguing me. And so, as you and your audience know, perimenopause isn't based on a diagnostic tool like a blood test, but rather a clinical diagnosis based on symptoms. And many of those symptoms were what I was experiencing. And sure enough, the hormonal changes brought about by the pill are helping me. So you could say, yes, that's perimenopause.
It aligned perfectly for you. I mean, as you were writing the book, the symptoms began to manifest themselves. And it was like, oh, wow, I'm writing about these symptoms. And here I am experiencing them at this particular moment. I mean, how much more alignment could you possibly have asked for? Your work spans mental health, legal insight, and social change through your advocacy. When did menopause become the lens through which all of these threads came together for you and especially for writing the book?
So, about a year and a half ago, I was about to be 39.
Mhm.
And I was just curious about menopause because I had never talked about it with anyone, despite my
Mm.
very open nature in terms of talking about women's health with friends, family, etc. Despite being very well read, very educated, I didn't know anything about it. So I met Ann Fullenwider, who's the co-founder of Alloy, a telehealth platform for women in midlife. And she was so inspiring. And the other women in the room at this networking event kept saying things like, I wish I had known when I was younger, etc. And when I looked into it, I realized that there was so much there. As you said, there was the law and policy and advocacy piece. There was the mental health piece. No one in all my years of training in women's mental health had ever uttered menopause to me. There was just the everyday piece of how it's impacting my friends and family and clients all around me. And so it lit a fire under me to tell members of my generation so that we wouldn't be caught off guard the way that every older woman was telling me they had been.
Had you never heard of menopause from your mom, your aunties, your godmother, or women from your older generation at all?
Literally nothing. I knew that it was the end of fertility, the end of one's period. I knew from media that it often involves hot flashes, and
Mhm.
that's all I knew.
Right. So you took it upon yourself.
Hmm.
And now, what is the conversation like with your friends?
So I bring it up any and all times. And, it's not always perimenopause, it's not always hormonal shifts. But I think talking about it is an opportunity to reflect and to share resources. And I actually think it's quite beautiful that menopause impacts each woman differently because that's life, right? Menopause is a part of life. We all have different paths, but we can still share and support each other. And I think it's really important to talk about I'm having a bad day, I'm not feeling good, something's off. And then, however you choose to treat that, you can do that with the support of the women around you.
Gotcha. Now, the book amplifies not just the medical expertise, but the lived experiences of the women whom you interviewed. Was there a particular story you encountered along the way during your research that shifted how you view menopause?
I will shout out a colleague turned friend of mine. Her name is Susan Frankel. She's also a lawyer and she's a healthcare attorney who we had collaborated on a different book. We each contributed chapters to an anthology called Own Your Story. And her story that she shares in that book and in mine, and so beautifully, relates to the impact on mental health that her perimenopause symptoms was having on her. And it was a really rough experience. And learning about her story and then reading the latest studies that are thankfully continuing to come out every week these days, I realized how great an impact menopause can have on one's mental health. And that just spoke to me personally and professionally so deeply. So I really want women to feel like they have resources and not be searching for answers feeling alone.
I think that's a very important part of the menopausal conversation, mental health. My great grandmother was diagnosed with mental health illness around her mid 50s. She's been long gone, but I always wonder, how much of that might have been because of, right? I just always wonder
Yeah.
because as someone in postmenopause, I feel what it's like. I feel
Mhm.
how my mental health is challenged. And thank God I have all of the resources I do now. I know where to turn. I know what I need to do. I know when I need to stop. I know when I need to pause. I know what I need to do when I need to do it. I know when I need to go to therapy, etc., right? So what would you say to women who are struggling and just don't know what to do, who feel confused? And you hear people say this all the time. I feel like I'm going crazy.
Absolutely. I hear that. I hear the confusion, the complete overwhelm, and really the lack of resilience. I work with many women who we've been working together for a while. I've seen them through postpartum mental health struggles, and they've been doing well. And then it's like, boom, they get hit with perimenopause symptoms that only now I'm able to recognize as such because things are changing, right? Physiologically, psychologically, and also externally, whether it's life changes, kids are moving out, or growing up, whatever it is, it can be difficult for a variety of reasons. So I would say that medication is a tool in our toolbox, whether that's in the form of hormone therapy, and or antidepressants or whatever you need. And that cognitive behavioral therapy is extremely effective in providing coping mechanisms and also alleviating some of the symptoms like hot flashes. So I think that combo is a great way to start. And at the very least, find a healthcare or mental health provider who can point you in the right direction and really hear you.
Right. Now let's get back to the book. Who is this book for?
So, this book is for every woman born between 1981 and 1996, and the people who care about them. And of course, their older sisters who may not identify as millennials, but are in it.
Right.
And it's really fun. It's full of pop culture references for all my fellow millennials, but also very much expert backed with scientific resources.
Got it. So it's a good stocking stuffer. It's a gift
It's
you can
fun.
give. It's fun. I love that because the menopause conversation has become an intergenerational one.
Mhm.
So Gen Xers are talking about it, boomers are talking about it. I'm turning to people who are older than me for conversations, and our event has people who are younger than us talking about it. And now here you are with a book specifically for millennials because they are here. It's like, this is your turn. You are now in it. So
Mhm.
you have to be equipped. So this book is the guide that's going to help them get well researched information, expert advice, and not only expert advice, but advice from people who've lived through the menopausal experience. So insights from individuals as well. You said the book is part guide, part sisterhood, and part rally cry. What do you most want readers to feel after turning the final page?
I want them to feel like they're not alone in whatever their journey might look like. And I provide so many resources, whether it's online communities or experts who provide free information or other books. And I think it's really important that we don't gaslight ourselves and dismiss ourselves by saying, oh, this is just life, suck it up, you can live with the night sweats. I also really want women to feel empowered, especially when they are having conversations with their healthcare providers, because we've seen it still that they get dismissed and are told you're too young or there's nothing we can do. And that's totally false. And I want women to know that they can literally bring in the book and say, look at this page, look at this study, and you need to listen to me.
Put it in your pocketbook.
Totally.
Walk around with it. Okay. You mentioned gaslighting, and
Mhm.
that's so good because it leads right into my next question. The mental load on women to carry when they
Mhm.
go into these doctors' offices, it's humongous, it's huge. What systemic change do you think needs to happen in order to alleviate that mental load?
I know that not everyone will see all of our video right now, but if you play this clip, you see me making a face because the
I'm going to play this clip.
there are a lot of changes that we are quite desperate for, frankly. I would start with the education that's needed for our healthcare providers, which is a movement that's gaining some traction, thankfully, but it's an uphill battle. Um, I want to assume the best of providers. I don't think they're out to hurt us or dismiss us, but they are not getting the training that they need to provide care for this phase of life. And that really is an urgent change that's needed. We also have the policies related to warnings on estrogen products that is also gaining some movement. But again, I want to see change happen probably quicker than it will. I want to see lack of discrimination and bias in our healthcare systems, especially for women of color. I want to see women feeling able to advocate for themselves. You mentioned the mental load. And I got to tell you, it takes so much to even make the doctor's appointment and get there, right? And then you're finally there and you're saying, oh, I just don't feel like myself. Something's bothering me. And you're told to get over it or here's a quick fix. And that's awful. And it's really stressful. It creates additional burdens on
Yeah.
women, and I hope that we collectively can change that.
Yeah, yeah. And see, this is the thing, right? It takes time because it's a
Mhm.
system that's been set in place for such a long time, and it's going to take time to dismantle these systems. But the momentum is there,
Yeah.
and the baton is being passed on. The Gen Xers and the has passed it on to the millennials, and you're going to pass it on to the Gen Zers, and that's
Mhm.
what we need, right? We just need everybody to work together and for each generation to speak louder and louder about what the needs are, and we hope that that's going to happen, and I think I see it happening. I'm glad I'm seeing it in my lifetime, and here you are
Yeah.
doing some of that work, right? Okay, so you encourage women to advocate for themselves in the
Mhm.
doctor's office. You just spoke about taking that book, putting it in
Mhm.
your handbag, pointing out the sentences that are needed to show them, hey, this is what the book says. Can you talk to me more than 5 minutes,
Mhm.
or don't dismiss me? What's a small, doable first step for someone who feels silenced or unsure? I mean, I know you said take the book in,
Mhm.
but if you take the book in, what can you do past that?
If you're able, I would bring a sort of support person, someone that you trust, and they can help not protect you, but sort of encourage you and also be a third party to witness the exchange. I think, though, that if you're in the situation where you literally are pointing to data and you're describing your own symptoms and still getting dismissed, then I think it's way past time to find a new doctor. And I know that that is not easy. I don't want to take that for granted, but you deserve better unequivocally. You, at the very least, deserve a provider who says things like, I'm not sure, I'll look into it, or let me refer you to a colleague. And so if you're getting dismissed that at that level, reach out to me and I will help you find a provider. There are many on the Menopause Society's directory. There are telehealth platforms, and they're out there, and that's the kind of care you deserve.
Gotcha. So the book is out today.
Yes.
And what are the plans for the book? And what are some of the chapters in the book that you love most? Share some of that juicy stuff with us that's in the book.
Sure. So I'll start with some of my favorite chapters. I really love the chapter that I wrote specifically for men,
Mhm.
whether they are spouses or partners, brothers, fathers, friends, employers. I think it's pivotal that men are included in this conversation. Yes, it's a women's health issue, but it certainly impacts men. Men certainly know women who are going through menopause. And it's important that we talk about these issues and normalize them. I also really love my chapter on workplace policies. I know that I had experience with advocating for paid parental leave in my corporate world life. And I think that similarly, we need to advocate for menopause related policies. And I think it's actually critical that millennials do so now
Mhm.
before they might think they need the support related to menopause and before it becomes urgent and they feel like they have to quit if they don't get it. So I give some tips and resources on how to do that as well. And as far as what's next, I hope, of course, to get this into the hands and in front of the eyes of as many people as possible. It's truly a pleasure to connect with women who are reading it, sharing it, featured in it. And I will be traveling around a bit to promote that and doing events with other providers and other wellness brands. And it's exciting.
I love that. Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm just having a brain fog.
The
And for
men
those
in
of
the
you,
workplace.
I love having
We've
these real
yeah,
time brain fogs, by the way, because this is just
that's
how
real. Yeah.
menopause works. Like I'm in the
Yeah,
middle of a sentence, and then it's like, where did you go? It's like the thought just had a stroll.
that's okay.
And then sometimes it strolls back, and sometimes it doesn't come back until later on. So that's what Lauren is here for. Tell me again, Lauren.
The men and the workplace
The
chapters.
men and the workplace. Yes, yes, yes. Because guess what? Some of us have sons and husbands and fathers and brothers, and they don't have a clue what's happening. And it's so important for us to let them know if we want to have functional households,
Mhm.
functional relationships. I love that the book is not just for us, but it's for the men in our lives too. So thank you so much. I think that's
Thank
just
you.
brilliant. I want to get to you now because you are a busy mom, you have a career, you're doing all of these amazing things. How do you take care of yourself? Share with us 3 self-care rituals that you turn to keep you grounded and well.
Sure. I do yoga with a friend of mine, Tara Sussman, who's a yoga instructor, and she recently incorporated weights into one of her
Mm,
um, offerings, which is great, as we know, for this phase of life. So
mm,
I just love it. I think it's very good for my mental health and, of course, physical health. And it's nice also to connect with friends as you
yes.
exercise. I think there's something really powerful in that. I get massages as frequently as I can, even if they're, 10 minutes at a local nail salon. I think that's just something I treat myself to, and I deserve that. And I say no to a lot of things, like social things, because I am extroverted in a lot of ways, but I also really love to recharge. And as you mentioned, my kids are little, they're 9 and 6,
Yeah.
and I love my work and I work a lot, but I also want time with my family. So sometimes that means setting boundaries, and that's okay.
Yes, yes, and yes. Thank you so much. And before you go, I have one other. I usually ask this hypothetical, if and fun question. So I've got one for you.
Ready.
If every millennial woman woke up tomorrow with a magic button that let her instantly understand exactly what was happening to her body, her hormones, and her mind, what do you think would change first in her life, and how would that ripple out into her relationships, career, and sense of self?
I think that she wouldn't be reluctant to say, this is what's going on. I want to try XYZ to treat it, and I won't take no for an answer.
I love that.
And things might be different for the woman next to her, and that's totally fine. And
Right.
of course, we know there's a lot of trial and error involved,
Yeah.
but having that self assuredness can only lead to positive impacts and ripple effects in every facet of her life. So I would love to remove some of the doubt and the self
Mm.
doubt that I see far too frequently.
Love that. Love that. This is what I want, and I'm not taking no for an answer. The end.
Period,
Thank
no
you.
pun intended.
Period. No, exactly. That was lovely. Thank you. But before you go, I would love for you to share with us how we can connect with you, how we can stay connected with you. Share with our audience.
Sure. So you can go to millennialmenopause.com, which will take you to my website and all of the book events. And I'm on Instagram as the counselor, LAUR, which is also my website, email, etc. But truly, I'm happy to help provide as many resources as possible. So if you need help, please reach out.
And where can we get the book?
Anywhere books are sold as of today.
Wonderful. And again, congratulations. Thank you so much. Listeners, thank you for tuning in. And as always, let's perimenopause and prosper. See you next time.